Good day and welcome, people. Thank you for joining Klipkop Raw and Uncut. Unlike some other live streams here on YouTube, our voices are in sync with our lips. Um, in the Twitter sphere, we have seen a lot of black voices starting to speak out against the absolute hypocrisy that is the government at the moment. And one of those people are Ntuthuko Dumakude. Very welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to all the viewers that are watching.
Okay, you are a Twitter activist with about 10K followers on Twitter. Like, how long did it take you to get to that 10K?
I tweeted, I think, in 2014. And actually, I just discovered about 2 days ago that I have 10,000 because I never check. I just tweet.
Mhm.
And when I saw that, I accidentally went to my profile and I was like, 10,000. Wow. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, since 2014.
10K is a lot of followers. I have about 1652 followers at the moment, so I'm very far behind you. You
Well, you get that.
you decided to move into the YouTuber sphere very recently. You published like 2 or 3 videos, and I can see the followers are coming in slowly but surely. If you want to check out Ntuthuko's Twitter profile or his YouTube, both links are in the description. You can go there and follow him if you want to. Let's start off with the first basic question. What
Right.
year were you born?
I was born on July 14th, 1978. So I'm 41 years old now.
1978. Okay, so I was born in 1981, so we are like relatively close
Yeah.
with our birth dates.
Yes.
And I think there should be an interesting discussion
Mm-hmm.
because with the whole transfer of power to the democratic government, like white people had a certain perspective, and white people have been told a certain narrative for so long, and then
Right.
we had to change. The same
Right.
with black people. They have been told a certain narrative, and then also that has to change. So I think this will
Right.
be a great discussion.
Yes.
So, do you have a tribal affiliation, Xhosa, Zulu?
I'm a Zulu, 100%. Both parents are Zulus.
So are you a proud Zulu as well?
I'm a what?
Proud Zulu. Like,
Oh,
are you proud about your, or is it just something that is?
I am a proud South African who happens to be a Zulu.
Oh, okay. So
That's just me. Yeah.
you are South Africa first. Okay, that is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
If we go to your very first video, you spoke a lot about your personal life.
Yes.
Now, you said you were born in Durban. Is that correct?
Yes, I was born in a township. It's a very small township called Hammersdale, which we call it Mpumalanga Township,
Mhm.
just outside Pietermaritzburg. It's actually between 3 cities, Pietermaritzburg, Pinetown, and Durban. But then it falls under the eThekwini municipality, I mean metro.
Okay, and eventually you guys moved to Swaziland.
So in 1984, 5, when black on black violence was beginning to bubble under, we got intel that my family was one of the targets because
Hmm.
my grandparents and my parents were involved in the ANC. So the rival was the IFP at the time. So
Hmm.
KZN was rendered as an IFP province, and no ANC was allowed. And so we were known to be ANC, and so we were targets. So when my mom found out that she was part of the intelligence of the ANC at the time, we were fled at midnight because
Hmm.
the attack was going to take place sometime before dawn. So we fled to Swaziland. So basically, that's where everything just changed. Because I lived a comfortable life as a child. Both my
Hmm.
parents worked. We lived in a very nice house in Hammersdale,
Hmm.
and which was built by the apartheid government, by the way. It was a 5-room township house, and so things just changed from there.
How old were you at that stage?
At that stage, probably five years old. I no no. I had just begun my at that time we used to call sub A, which is grade 1 or whatever it's called
Yeah,
today. Yeah, that's
yeah.
when it happened. Yeah, so that will
So,
be five, 6.
so you were still very, very, very young at that stage. If
Absolutely.
if I can give my perception of like at my age, I didn't have to deal with people like coming to kill my parents. I didn't have those problems. I was like I said, born in '81. I was born in a small town, the Beers Diamond mining town.
Oh,
And
okay.
like to be honest, like I had a great life. Like I could go out and play in the field until my mom always said, as soon as the lights in the street start turning on, I must get my ass back home.
Well, the same with us as well, because my township was the only one, I think, in South Africa that had tarred roads. The apartheid government took really good care of it. We had tarred road, we had electricity, what do you call this, street lights. And my mom used to say exactly the same thing. Like, if the sun go down and the lights come up, you better be in here, otherwise, I think we had that in common.
Now that you mentioned the street lights and the tarred roads, etc.,
Mm.
this is something I hear a lot from Black Twitter. Is
Mm-hmm.
that or not even from Black Twitter, from our parliamentary leaders?
Mm.
Is that the previous government only took care of 8% of the population. The other 92% didn't get any services at all. But you are telling me now that that isn't entirely true.
No, absolutely not. People who grew up in Hammersdale will tell you that that's not true. I've also been to Soweto. I've been to other townships in South Africa when we're doing the fleeing and
Yeah,
hiding. Like I said, in Hammersdale, probably it was the only township in South Africa that had tarred
yeah.
road and street lights. Soweto did have street lights, but it was like that those tall ones that probably lighted a number of blocks. But
Hmm.
in my township, it was each maybe a few meters away from each other. So
Okay.
I would say it's not true because number one, the apartheid government did build the forum houses, and then they were electrified and water was put in place. And I also remember in my township we would have like white guys would come and fix the piping if there is some sort of leak going on, if there was an electric and maybe whatever that goes on, they'll be there to fix it. We had like garbage trucks coming every
Hmm.
2 days. So I don't understand what they mean by misleading the rest of South Africa that the apartheid government did not service black people.
It is quite excuse me. It is quite concerning because these leaders are doing it on an international stage as well, and like the people out there do believe them.
Mm.
Also, in your first video, you said that South Africa needs dialogue. Now, who needs to dialogue with who? Like, who are the people?
Well, there's a lot that's going on inside, apart from black and white people, but then amongst black people as well, there's a lot of divisions that is going. I think you saw after the World Cup where the Xhosas started taking ownership of Siya's Pelosi and say, oh, it's a Xhosa thing. We Xhosas are the best. And isolating the rest of the black population. That stuff is
Yeah.
happening between us as well as black people. So the conversation is not just only between black and white, but then amongst black people themselves as well. So that we can curb or get rid of what happened in Rwanda. Because what's going on between black people, it's bubbling under that sort of thing. But then my main concern is our diversity is actually being, I don't want to say under threat, but it seems to be used as a tool to divide us, especially black and white people. But I also think the reason why that is because of what the politicians are saying to people, that all white people are all racist, black people, all of them cannot be racist, which is rubbish. And it's also still rubbish that all white people are racist. So there's some sort of mistrust that is playing itself between the black and white people because we don't know each other. We don't know what black parents teach their children, and we also don't know what white parents teach their children. And then when they come out into the real world, there is that, okay, I don't know what you are taught at home. I don't know what you also taught at home. But then there's that distrust that white kids are told to hate blacks. And they even go as far as saying that if dogs that are owned by white people are trained to hate black people. So those are the sort of things that you actually get. But now, if you ask, how do you know that? Nobody will ever tell you how they know that.
Yeah, something I see a lot on Twitter is when black people say about what white people talk about around their dinner tables, and it must be racist and so on.
Yep.
Now, to move on to your second video,
Hmm.
um, Panyasa Lesufi, is he a racist in your opinion?
Yes, it's a racist. Period.
Okay, so that's a nice, straightforward, honest answer. We don't even have to delve into that. I think everybody can agree with that. His rhetoric is very, very racist.
Yeah.
Also, on your second video, you said there are bad people and there are good people, and you also mentioned dark forces. Now, are you a religious person?
I am a spiritual person. I grew up under the Catholic Church. My parents were staunch Catholic, and but as I grew older, I also ventured my own way, going to church, and But one thing that I found out about church, not that I am criticizing, or maybe perhaps I didn't find the right church with the right people. Whenever I started asking questions, then I will get Bible bashed. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's better I just use my conscience as my God, because at home as well, the guidance that I got, perhaps it's the only thing that will satisfy my spirituality. So I do believe in good and bad, dark and lightness and things of that nature. Yes, I do.
I'm I'm also a lot like you. Like when people ask me what my religious affiliation is, I say it's either atheist or agnostic. Like they can take their pick
Mm,
because and I know this Angus Bochen said that the Bible should be taken literally, and I would like, oh God, please, people, don't take the Bible literally. Because
mm,
thousands of people were killed in the Bible, like
mm,
killing women and babies were justified in the Bible, and like I
right,
think if you take the Bible literally, you are going to land up in a lot of trouble.
right. Mm,
Although I believe like the general morality
mm,
of Christianity, that is what I believe in. It's
yeah,
like doing good to other people and not expecting anything back. Like, those values I can embrace.
right. Right. Yeah,
Um,
that's me as well. I respect Christianity and other religions, and I don't think they should be used as a tool or a vehicle to cause any sort of hurt or harm against another person. And shouldn't also, people should not be forced into believing. Let it be their choice. But then one most important thing with religion, I think, if you have a conscience, then that's where God lives. That's just me.
so you say God is that little voice in your head.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, I'm a bad liar, and then when I do, I that voice was like, no, 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 you didn't tell the truth. So I would turn around. Maybe you can give me 40 seconds. My mom used to count me down when I'm lying. It's like, now watch. My sisters always go like, wow, how do you know? It's like, this is my son. I know him.
Okay, you mentioned the Russians in your second video, and Cyril Ramaphosa went for a visit to Russia. Like
Yeah.
you asked people to like bring some insight to you. Why did he visit there? What was discussed? Did anybody come back to you?
No, nobody did. Most of the time, whenever I ask these questions, I would tweet him, like tag him. Uh, but no, even the government, no, nobody comes back to me and answer these questions. Maybe I'm a lone voice, and they think, oh well, I don't know. Maybe I'm insignificant. But these questions need to be answered at some point because it's very important. We need to know what agreements are these people are making on our behalf, and what the terms and conditions of these agreements. Recently, with the what do you call this, the investor conference, we're hearing
Mhm.
363 billion rand pledged, and then a pledge to me means a promise. We promise, but. So now that but is what I want to know what was the condition behind it. So it makes me very uncomfortable. And
The
maybe the
thing,
reason why I don't trust the Russians is maybe has to do with World War II and all the stuff that happened there. But unfortunately, I just don't trust them together with
yeah,
the Chinese.
you don't want to have distrust in the people because like 50 years ago their grandparents did something wrong.
Yes,
But you say like at least be cautious. You don't trust them in that way.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Also, in your second video, you talked about Lindiwe Sisulu that took over from Nomvula Mokonyane water affairs. Now,
Yes.
Sisulu defended Mokonyane and said that there was two reasons for the failures: apartheid and citizens are wasteful.
I actually laughed when she said that. It looks like apartheid is always the scapegoat,
Mm,
and it's also a tool to intellectually manipulate black people. That oh well, we are failing. It's not because it's our fault. It's the apartheid. We are failures, but it's blame the apartheid. And
mm.
the what was the second one again that killed me? When she exonerated Nomvula Mokonyane and then put the blame on us. It seems like it's an ANC thing now, a government thing, where they will say, South Africans, you are. But then you're like, wait a minute, I'm paying the bills, I'm paying tax, where's that money going to? Because that's exactly, like I said, when I open my tap to wash my clothes, to wash dishes, to cook, bath, I'm doing that in good faith, knowing that my money has worked for me and pipes are being fixed, dams are being maintained, and etc. etc. So now, how is it my fault that the dam is leaking or whatever the case will be? Or when it is a floods, there'll be overflowing of the or drought. How is that any of my fault as a South African citizen, especially as a taxpayer? Where is that money going to? So I think such things we need to speak about and say, but then hang on, Miss Sisulu, what are you talking about? You are a failure. Just say we don't know what we are doing. Please be patient with us as we learn. There's nothing wrong in saying that.
It's absolutely ludicrous. For example, Eskom as well. Now Eskom is telling us we should use less electricity because we are using too much. Like, no, we are paying taxes so you can supply us with the amount of electricity we need, and we are already paying through the roof for that electricity.
It actually doesn't make sense at all. I don't. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous.
It's it
It's incompetence. That's just
Yes.
what it is. It's incompetence. So they're now coming up with all kinds of scapegoating and running away from taking responsibility.
Okay, now we move on to the real black questions.
Yeah, okay.
There's a term called black consciousness, and you mentioned this in your video, and you said that this comes from Steve Biko. What exactly is black consciousness?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question because I'm in 2019, and then this uh, what do you call this? This movement was created somewhere, I think, in the 50s, or I can't remember, and it was serving a certain purpose at the time because there used to be black people who apparently were sympathetic to white people, and some black people felt that they were selling out, and then somebody devised, I think Steve Biko then devised this black consciousness thing, that black consciousness is about certain way of thinking, certain way of doing things, etc., etc. But I think in 2019 we shouldn't even be thinking in that line. We should actually be thinking South African, because that's why I say I'm a South African conscious guy. I'm not racial conscious, and I'm not Zulu conscious. I'm not whatever you want to say, because it's irrelevant in the 21st century, in 2019, going into 2020. Now, Steve Biko said that at that time, to neutralize whatever that he needed to neutralize. And then he did make a disclaimer as well in his book that he writes what he likes. So that's his opinion as far as I see or read what he was saying, or that movement itself, Pan-Africanists, I think they are called, or PAC, as a political organization. But I don't subscribe to such things. I subscribe to humanity. I mean, irrespective of where you come from, we are all part of this world. We are human beings, and we will interact with each other, and we will make friends and all that stuff. So in the 21st century, no, especially in a global village like South Africa is part of, no, for me, thanks.
Yeah, it's for me it's difficult because like I also would like to see the whole South Africa identifying as one nation. Like America does reasonably well. Everybody says we are American first and then we are other things. Like for example, here in South Africa, you are a Zulu, right? So like, do you believe that the king should be the custodian of the Ingonyama Trust? The Zulu should have their own homeland.
No, like I said, we are human beings, and we are supposed to move anywhere and live anywhere and interact with each other anyway. And now putting restrictions and say that's nah. Again, it's something that I'm trying to grasp with, and it doesn't make sense to me in this day and age that there should be what do you call this what do you call this, self-realization
Self-determination.
or self-determination. No, not in the 21st century. No.
The problem is that I believe that there's so much cultural differences that especially when you try and force people together, the different types of cultures clash. Like I can't speak on behalf of other cultures, but I know, for example, like in our like white suburbia, Sundays you don't go out partying and loud music. Sundays you go to church and you go home and you be quiet. And another culture like might not respect that, and they'll like maybe play like loud music because it's weekend, for a guy that. So if you force those people together into a group, then this group will be annoyed because they're playing loud music. For example, with the Diwali, there was this big thing about a white guy blowing off on an Indian guy because they were shooting fireworks. And it is a cultural thing for the Indian people to shoot fireworks on Diwali. And this white guy was freaking out because his dog was freaking out. And there's the example of just because our cultures are different, there's difficulty in us sharing the same spaces, especially the same living spaces.
Yeah, like I said, this boils down to exactly what I was saying about dialoguing. Because in a dialogue, you come to a compromise. Like in a situation like Diwali, or for example, I'm a Zulu, we do traditional slaughtering of that sort of thing. If you sit down and come up with a middle ground, you won't have such issues. You will really not have such issues at all. So it's not a matter of forcing people to live in one place. It's about we coexist. And then as human beings, we are not going to be different. Our cultures are not going to be the same. So here's the compromise. So compromise is the key in this whole thing. It's not self-determination. Self-determination is basically creating the gap even bigger instead of bridging it.
The thing is, if you are against self-determination, it is you are positive about the future. Like I am a supporter of self-determination,
Okay.
and the thing is, if I had a feel in this country of we are moving to a one united nation, I would also have rejected self-determination. But especially from the rhetoric I get from specifically government
Hmm.
about like white people is this, white people is that, etc., etc.
Hmm.
That means self-determination is basically our only option because we are being targeted at the moment. Well, that is my interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's also my interpretation that white people are actually being targeted. And I was speaking to somebody today, a fellow black person, and I was like, so when I'm saying now in a third voice, so now after driving the white people out, who's going to be our next target? Is it not going to
Okay.
be the Indians? After we're done with the Indians, is it not going to be the coloreds? After the coloreds, is it not going to be the smallest tribe? And then we grow. And by the time we are done, the two major tribes in South Africa, I think, which is Zulu and Xhosa, where will South Africa be then?
Okay, you must excuse me for 1 second. I've got a problem with my audio.
Okay.
Now, usually how I correct this, I unplug my audio and I plug it back in. So if we drop something, I apologize to the viewers. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you nice and clear again. Guys in the chat, can you hear me? Adrian Bevier, thank you very much for the 35 Rand donation. It's very much appreciated.
Wow.
I am going to assume everybody can still hear me. Um, Another thing in your video,
Hmm.
you mentioned something that I think, well, when I heard it, I thought this can't be true. Are there black people out there paying their domestic workers 700 Rand a month?
Yep. I'm telling you, uh, uh, it's incredible because what they do is they will have children, and then they would use this lady as a nanny, a cleaner, and a cook, but she would
Mhm.
live with them. So the justification is that we feed you, we put a roof over your head, and sometimes we buy you clothes. So
Yeah.
this 700 or 800 Rand is justifiable. My
Okay, so
sister
so
tried it. My sister tried it once, and I said that is not going to happen in my presence. It's not
so
going to
so
happen.
so the 700 Rand is basically pocket money, and then they get clothed and fed.
Yeah,
That
that's a
is,
salary. That's actually a salary that she earns a month, and
yeah,
then
you know,
it does happen. All these people that are on Twitter shouting and screaming at white people, that's what they are doing. Most of them. If you, it's a challenge. Anybody wants to challenge me, I challenge that everybody to go to where a middle class black family, and I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying you will find them
okay.
where when you speak to a domestic helper, she will tell you this is how much I earn. It doesn't come close to the minimum wage.
Yes, yes. Like I still find it a little bit difficult to believe, but then again, there's so much poverty in the country. Like people are desperate enough to go do that. At least I will get fed, you know. But she has to like work now, basically 24 hours a day because she sleeps in.
Yeah.
But moving on. Here's another thing I've heard a lot of,
Mm.
especially with the students. They mention something called black tax. Now, what is black tax?
Well, that one is a reality.
Hmm?
If I work, a portion of my salary is going to go to. Okay, I live in Joburg, and then my family is in Durban. So every month when I get paid, the first money that before everything else, this portion is going to my mom, and that portion is going to go to my aunt, and that portion is going to go to my struggling cousin, sister, brother who has children and unemployed. That is a reality. That's what we call black tax before
Oh,
everything else.
so it is basically because poverty is more common among black families,
Yes.
there's a certain amount of your salary that already goes to the family without you spending a cent.
Yes, absolutely.
That is pretty much how I had it.
Mm.
You also mentioned we are using technology, electricity, roads, bridges created by the very people you want me to hate. Now, who is this you were referring to?
I'm referring to your EFF and your ANC. Those guys are sitting in parliament and telling us that, oh, WMC and I don't know what other terms that they have. They are saying that these people are bad for you. They are bad people. They are evil. These white
Hmm?
people. They are racist. They don't want us. They don't love us. They never loved us. Those are the terms that you hear all the time. And I'll be like, okay. And yet here you are using their roads that they build, buildings in the city. There was a time where I even challenged somebody who was trying to get me to their side. And I said, then let's go downtown and blow up the buildings and let's start an decolonized city. How about that? And then they just shrugged off and because I was basically exposing the stupidity of what they're trying to get me to do. And I'm thinking, no, it doesn't work because right now you are talking to me via a device that was, first of all, let's go far back when, what do you call this, waves were discovered. We used to, as Africans prior to the white man, our communication was standing on a hill and shouting to the other side of to send a message. So why don't we go back there and then create our own systems that are not colonial or whatever it is that they do, whatever terms that they use. So that's the point that I was making that be careful what you are asking because the majority of things that you are utilizing were built by them.
Yeah, the thing is that I hear people speaking about they want to decolonize education, the justice system, and the police force. The thing is, the justice system, the way we have it now, is a colonial concept.
Yes.
So, like, if you decolonize the justice system, what are you left with? Mob justice, I'm going to assume.
Well, well, you're basically leaving the verdict of an accused to a chief. The chief, if he
Yeah,
doesn't like you, will say death.
shame.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
only. I don't know what other African ways of I don't know dealing with whether it's a
Criminals.
crime, yeah, whether it's a crime or civil matter. I don't know, but then I know that if a chief just looks at you and says, "I don't like this guy, kill him," whether guilty or not.
Okay, you also said in your video, Afrikaners did not play victim. They built their own things. Now, this brings me back to the self-determination topic. Like for me personally, I I got my primary school and my high school education all in Afrikaans, and I went to study electrical engineering.
Hmm.
And my first year, I had the choice of taking the subjects in Afrikaans. And I would say because the subjects were in Afrikaans, Elec Eng 1 was a breeze. Like, I
Mm,
could literally just listen to the lecturer
mm.
and then go home, do a bit of homework, and then pass my exams. Like not just pass, like 80s and 90s%, just because it was in my mother tongue. Now that is something that someone like yourself like probably won't experience because African languages hasn't been developed up to a stage where you can use them in universities, etc., etc. Is mother tongue education something you would like to see?
Yes, I would like to see mother tongue textbooks and lecturing and teaching because studies do show that mother tongue is more effective when it comes to education. Good example, yourself. You everything
I
was
can.
done in Afrikaans. You understood the syllabus and everything perfectly well, and you were scoring 90s and 80s percent. But now a child like myself, I mean, I'm speaking about the skin color. who is learning in English, there's a lot first that I need to understand. I need to understand the English language, which has its own complications. And when you start teaching me jargons and these big, it becomes overwhelming. Well, fortunately for me, when I started off in a black primary school. Then when we came back from Swaziland in 1990, I think, the first school I went to, first non-black school was an Indian school. So when I got that, the two languages that were taught was English and Afrikaans. So I had to be taken back to grade one. In the black school, I was a smart child, very intelligent, but then they said, no, you need to go back to grade one so that I can learn the basics. So the reason why I did well throughout my schooling is because of that that foundation that I was led to. So I didn't struggle throughout school. But then there are kids who are black that are struggling. I think if they had a mother tongue education, then they would be like in a better place academically.
That is something I always say as well. When the Panyaza Lesotho types wants to remove Afrikaans from school, like why doesn't he fight to rather have all that knowledge that is now in English and Afrikaans? The Stellenbosch University has so much Afrikaans knowledge in their libraries. If you can translate that knowledge into native African languages, it will do so great for the black population in general.
Yeah, that's so true because the Bible, I think it's the only, not impact, I don't know if it's the only, but I think they did very well in translating it from English to vernaculars. If they could do that, how come they can't do that with the what do you call this, with the text that are at university libraries like your former Rao, your Stellenbosch, UCT, and things like that? Because you can do it. What's stopping the Panyaza Lesofis? What's stopping I don't know who's the Minister of Education now. I think after this whole, I stopped knowing who's the Minister of this and that because I'm just no longer interested in them. They're all useless. So I think that somebody needs to say something in that parliament in doing that. Because at the end of the day, it's disadvantaging the black child especially when they go to university. University, I have experienced, I remember adverts being surrounded by kids from the township because they didn't understand. I seemed to understand everything, and I was passing I knew what the topic for assignment was, and then I was passing. They all fail, like we get literally zero, and they will come and say, "But then how come you understand?" And then I would actually have to show them things. And then it was quite exhausting. It was quite exhausting. But then you realize that, yeah, that's where you begin to realize that the government is not doing anything for the kids in the township.
I'm going to go back to your childhood again.
Right.
And you mentioned you were the only black kid among white kids.
Yes.
Now, you said the people the white kids were basically falling over each other to be your friend.
Yes, yeah.
Were you the only black kid in the school or what?
Yeah. The first school I went to was an Indian school. I was the only black kid there as well, and I experienced a similar thing where kids would like literally fight over to be sit next to me in class and things like that. So, but then I slowly kind of like chopped them down because I like at least in a group to be three of us, not more. So in a white school, same thing. I was the only black kid. I stood out, and then even during assembly, everybody would be looking at me instead of focusing on the positions that are taking place. I think it was amazement or intrigued or I don't know, but it was quite interesting.
It's something new, no? It's something that they haven't seen like every day, like having a black person amongst them. So it is. I can understand fully.
Yeah.
Now my story is our schools also. also mixed in 1990 already, which is another narrative I want to change. People always talk about 1994. Apartheid was abolished in 1990 already. But in the small mining town, I think there's about 8,000 people resident in this town at that stage. And there were two schools, but this was because it was the law at the time. Like, you had to segregate white and black people. The government forced the mine to do this. And when 1990 came along and apartheid was abolished, now they mixed the two schools. They had the younger kids in the one school in the old brown community, and they had the older kids in the old white community. And we were basically just thrown together. It was explained to me in what is happening at this stage, because at that stage, I'm not sure if the same was spoken to you guys, but at that stage, like, our parents were like not really explaining to us exactly what was happening in the country, but they had to tell us now, like, listen here, those people that, like, we back in the day, or we taught them to, like, to call us bus, etc., etc. Those, we don't do that anymore, and we're going to the same schools now, and it was difficult for them. And the way my teacher explained it was that the only thing that is going to be different now is the brown kid that used to go to the school over there is now just going to have to walk further to this school now. But it was weird times, and I think nobody really knew how to react, or how to be. Everybody was on tender heels. I'm not sure if that is the right word, but especially in the first stage, like, the kids got along great. There were some fights here and there, but we were still different though. Like, I was told, like, these people are no different from us. It's only the color of their skin that is different, and that is bullshit. Because the first thing I noticed was that these kids don't play rugby; they play soccer.
Yeah.
They also listen to rap music, and like, white kids don't listen to rap music. So but we definitely found middle ground. We had 2 breaks during school, and during the first break we played rugby, and during the second break we played soccer. You know, we got along really well. Then when I went to high school, it was a different story. The high school I went to was not in my hometown. It was about 1,000 kids, and there was about 10 kids of color. And they completely kept to themselves. They didn't interact with the white kids, and the white kids didn't interact with them. Breakdown, they had their little spot there at the corner of the rugby field. So I don't know what caused the divide there, why my primary school days we were able to integrate, but in the high school days we wasn't. But sorry, that was a bit of a rant.
No, it's okay. Because what you're saying, it's things that I've seen.
Yeah, it's also me, like, also getting stuff off my chest. It's things I don't want to discuss with the white guy, you know, because it's inconsiderate.
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, you said the way you were raised, your mother told you that to hate is murder.
Yes.
Like, why is hate equal to murder?
Because people you love, you would not wish them ill. When you hate somebody, I think the first thing that comes to mind is you wish them dead. So that's equivalent to murder. You may have not taken a gun and blew their heads off, but in your heart, you've done that. So that's kind of scary for me. Even to this day, to hate somebody, it's a bit scary. So that is why I would rather ignore you, or if you hurt my feelings, I will make excuses for you. Usually I do that. I will make excuses for you so that I don't go to that place of like where my heart now is like grinding. No. So my mom was like, to hate is murder. You just know that it's murder.
Yeah, so I think hate is an extremely strong word, and I can understand why your mother equated the two to each other. You, in your third video as well, you asked this question: now that we've won the Rugby World Cup, is racism over? And obviously, it isn't over. But it seems like at the moment we broke down that barrier, and for a while now we can unite.
Yeah.
But what do we do afterwards again? Because this whole expropriation thing is still on the cards,
Right.
and the people in parliament, the leaders, they still haven't changed their narrative. They are still going to blame whitey for everything. How do we
Right.
approach this moving forward?
One of the things that I'm encouraging South Africans to do is to drown negativity. Don't
Hmm.
listen. Don't entertain it. Just I I don't know. There are a lot of good things that are happening in South Africa,
Hmm.
and I think posting those things on social media. When somebody says something, post something positive. Show. I always believe in love and goodness being the
Hmm.
forces that breaks the spirit of hate, that breaks the spirit of negativity. So while the parliamentarians do whatever it is that they are doing, we should show them that we are not with you. This is who
Hmm.
we want to be as South Africans. It's either you join us or you don't. By doing what? Coming together. I mean, I had on last week Saturday, I had a braai with an Afrikaans family with their friends.
Hmm.
It was incredible. It was as if we knew each other for like years. So those are the things that we need to do that shows that we are not with these politicians. And we discuss matters that are um, of interest to us as a people, not to white people only or black people only, but then as because one of the things that these guys told me is that they wanna be part of, but they seem to get pushed away. And I agree with that. That there's a front that is pushing, and yet there's a lot of white people who want to come in, but they're being pushed. Others even left because they don't know what to do anymore. So I think there might be an opportunity that's being missed by a lot of us, black people, when we push back. So
Yes, I can sort of agree with you. We are told to unify and to unify. Then we have Baleka and Bete on international stage saying like it's you guys that brought crime into Africa, and you guys it's your fault. So like how can you expect white people to embrace unity if this is what the leaders are saying? But another more important point is that I have this discussion with a lot of people, and a lot of people tell me, yeah, but most black people aren't like this. Most black people, they don't care about this whole land issue, etc. They don't blame white people for everything. But we live in a representative democracy. It is
mm.
mostly black people who elected the ANC and the EFF, the two big parties that is
Mm.
pushing this rhetoric. Do you
Mm.
believe most black people blame white people for their problems?
No. Um, no, they don't. They don't. Going back to the land issue, there's this land claim thing that was happening, and if you look at the evidence, the people that claimed the land didn't take the land; they took the money instead.
Hmm.
So when you ask why do you take the money instead of the land, they'll tell you what am I going to do with it.
Yeah,
And these are not your older or people. This is young people influencing their parents and their grandparents not to take the land but take the money. Because when you ask these young ones, so why? Because apparently this is your legacy and then it's a good investment. They're like, no, there's nothing we can do with it.
There's a lot of problems involving that. For example, if people were displaced during the apartheid era, now these were the current generation's grandparents, maybe even older than that. So now, when a reparation has to take place, you can either take the land or the money. Now, the land doesn't go to the household head anymore. It
Mm,
is 7, 8, 9, 10 of his grandchildren. Now,
yes.
like, so 10 people can't one will never be able to come to agreement exactly what we're going to do with the land. What do? You either take the money or you take it and then sell the land and then split
Yes,
up the money, because it is very difficult at the moment.
absolutely. And then another question I was asking that, so what if you take the land and the people that already reclaimed and got the money, what are they still going to be part of, like, going for the second round?
The
Those are the questions.
reparations.
Yes, and nobody's answering that question.
Okay, I am done with most of the difficult questions. Now
Hmm.
this whole Senzo Meyiwa case.
Yes.
Now, me as a white guy, like, so I noticed that this case was going around, but I didn't really pay attention. But like I said earlier, white people in general, they play rugby and don't care much about soccer, and the other way around as well. I
Mm.
saw this case, and it's not like I felt glad that like this person got shot, but I didn't really pay attention to this case.
Mhm.
Now, this he was killed 5 years ago already,
Yeah.
and like our justice system, like just they seem to be doing nothing. Now, I read a whole lot of stories online, exactly what happened, and theories about what's going on. But there's so many contradicting articles and things that people say. What is your perception of what happened?
My suspicion is that somebody in that house, either accidentally or purposefully, shot Senzo Meyiwa. And I believe in my heart that that person is a child of a prominent person.
Hmm.
And this prominent person has connections with the governing party, and obviously the governing party has deployed its cadres in the criminal justice system, and they are protecting that individual's child. That's just my suspicion.
It was very weird for me to see like the usual suspect, even people with EFF profile pictures,
Mm,
supporting this cause of AfriForum, where AfriForum used to be like the enemy number one for the radical leftist.
mm,
But now AfriForum is also doing a few other cases.
mm,
For example, the Grace Mugabe case. There was this other commander
mm.
that was seeking asylum in South Africa, and he got killed, and the NPA also squished that. And
Yes.
there's two more other cases. Like
Yeah.
why do black people in only do they only embrace the Senzo Meyiwa case, but they talk down to AfriForum for the other cases?
I think the other cases were low key. I remember there was a guy who had a problem with his land, and then I think with the government and his land, and AfriForum took the case and they won it in court,
Hmm.
and that was a low key case. But I think the reason why this one is this big is because Senzo Mayo was Bafana Bafana captain. He was loved, and I think he played for a big soccer club, and so that's why this kind of like blew up. And then whether they see AfriForum differently, I don't know yet. But I think for justice sake, they are happy that Gerinel has taken this with AfriForum.
I just want to go back to the chat. To the chat, I didn't even notice the super chat, guys. Sorry, I'm focusing on the actual live stream. We have 140 rand from Ronaldo Ghost. Thank you very much for the super chat, Ronaldo. Like I didn't mean to like blow up your party earlier. And Moxie, another 50 bucks. Moxie has been a great supporter. Moxie, another 14. Ronaldo, another 14. Wow, you guys are like really, really making my evening. Lots of 7 rands coming in. Thank you very much. I will um I will update my list a bit later. Jan de Toy, also a 20 rand. Thank you very much. Ronaldo, another 70, a 14 rand. Wow, you guys are like really making my evening. Okay, I am basically done with all of my questions. The thing is, I actually, this whole thing between the ANC and the IFP before the transition, like in the late 80s, where you literally had to go live in exile because the IFP was after you. It is not something that is talked about in the media almost at all,
Nope.
and I think that is another topic I would really love to discuss with you, because it seems like you have a lot of insight, because family of yours were directly affected.
Yes.
But it is also probably a topic you would like to prepare for. Like you also have to be careful what you say, etc., etc. And I
No,
would,
no, I don't have to be careful that I have freedom of expression and it's my story. If anybody wants to harm me for my story, then they have a problem. Because, oh, yeah, another thing about that issue as well, I think the reason why the ANC, because we grew up under ANC, there are principles and values that we were taught. And these principles and values are not being practiced by the people who purport to be ANC today. Uh, I know Fikile Mbalula is definitely a child of the ANC because he
Mhm.
speaks the language that we were taught, apart from the whole militancy and racism, which I don't know where he got that one from because we were not taught that as children of the ANC. And the reason why I believe that also the ANC has transformed into this animal many of us don't understand is because of the floor crossing that used to take place in the early 2000s, where IFP people would cross over to the ANC. And these people now are holding key positions across the board. And they are changing the values and the principles of the ANC. Perhaps that's something that we need to talk about next time when we talk. Well, why the
Ne-
ANC the way it is, and then suddenly KZN is a staunch supporter of the ANC when we know the real truth that KZN was never
yes.
staunch supporters of the ANC. They were IFP, and then evidence shows with the first elections as well.
If I understand correctly, the only reason why the ANC got support in Natal was because if they didn't support, they would get necklaced.
No, it's the grants.
It's
The grants.
the grants.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like that with their? The thing is, I think this topic is great for to do a whole separate show on because
Yeah.
this is something I hear about other people speaking, but it's something me as like two white guys can't sit and discuss it. Like
Yeah.
we have to like discuss this with a black guy. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left. Do we
Okay.
have any questions for Ntuthuko? I know Ronaldo had a question. Ronaldo like gave I don't know how many bucks he gave. I'm gonna check afterwards. Thank you very much. Uh, he had a question. He said, "I have a question. How many times do you get faced with the coconut analogy as well as the house N word?"
Oh my goodness. um, when I was still in high school, when I moved from primary school to high school, in high school there used to be now like a lot of black kids coming from the township, and I went to an all boys school in Best Valley, and so I had this accent that I'm having is kind of like different back then. It was kind of like almost white, and then they will say, "Oh, you're a coconut."
Mhm.
And so it was hurtful in the beginning, but then I embraced it and then I used it as my defense mechanism. So if you call me a coconut, I'm like, yeah, you got it. I'm the first generation coconut. It's like Black Americans taking the power from the word nigger into as part of the
Mm.
basically it's just to kill the power it holds.
Yeah.
So if you call me a coconut, a house Negro, or doesn't make any difference to me. Absolutely makes no difference.
Mark C, thank you very much for the 150 bucks. Like, please ask a question. Let me do something for you. Like, really, thank you very much, guys. Um, I I would really love to have a conversation with you again because there's just so much insight. There's so many questions, like black questions, I can't speak with about my white friends, and I would really love to have you on my show again. I just want to go back and prepare the questions properly this time.
Okay.
Like, are you cool with that?
Yeah, 100%. This is what I'm encouraging, the conversations. We don't know each other. We need to know each other. That's
So,
how we can bridge this.
in closing, do you have any message for the viewers out there? There's currently 56 people watching.
I want to say to people, listen, don't focus on the negative. Don't worry about Lozi. Don't worry about those people. They don't speak for. We didn't have a conference where we elected people going to speak on our behalf. We got our own brains, and we got our own feelings. We got our own experiences. They have their own, so they cannot impose that onto the rest of us. I mean, if you looked at the Rugby World Cup tour, look at all those people together. They didn't listen to Lozi and EFF. They are not our spokespeople. So don't And then the word black people are, no, not all of us are like that. I would appreciate it if you say some black people or most black people, but then that you speak on what? Facts. Because if you say all black people are criminals, that means all white people wouldn't be here in South Africa by now. So don't listen to negativity. Don't pay attention to it. It doesn't exist. It only exists on Twitter to provoke you by what? Agent provocateurs like the EFF.
That also annoys me a little bit when we have Afrikaans people saying on Twitter, etc., that Afrikaans people are. So we sit basically with the same problem, just the other side of the coin. But thank you very, very much for joining me, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good night, man. Oh, yeah, shit.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Woo, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning in. I had this massive spasm just before I went off. And now I can actually focus on, like, you guys really, really, really made my evening tonight. It looks like Mark C and Ronaldo was in some sort of a super chat war. Now, speaking about super chats, let's go to the donations. On my previous live stream, nobody donated, but I'm not angry. I brushed the dirt off my shoulder and I went back at it. And here I'm back. Like here is all of the old donations. Mark C is really splashing out. Thank you, Belvo, Pete, and Flop, and to all the rest who previously donated. Thank you, Darth Vader, for that one. I missed most of your super chats. It was because I was trying to focus on the actual live stream. But I really, really appreciate like everything, like every little, even the little 7 Rand ones. Like it's amazing, like just to know that somebody like supports me enough to like pass an odd my way. You know, you don't even tip a car guard 7 Rand these days anymore. And obviously, like after this, I'm going to be available on Discord. What I need to do though is, I think I need to, like, I know Ronaldo talked a lot of cuck when I showed this live stream on his channel. Let me just go to, oh no, now I need to go to Twitter again, because like he was talking about disrespectful this and that and what. Disrespectful this and that and what, and like I thought, okay, fine, like if you really want it this way, I will just block you and like I'm out of your hair. But if you are here super chatting, I guess I can unblock you again. Then I'm not out of your hair. Like I'm not sure what you want me to do. There we go, Ronaldo's unblocked. But guys, thank you very, very much for joining in. If you please support Ntuthuko. He has like a lot of Twitter followers and he's really trying to pick up his YouTube game. And he only has like 50 subscribers at the moment. If you can go out and support him, that'll be great. And I will be on the Discord server after this, if you can get the link in the description as well. And is there any last questions? I'm gonna light one cigarette and finish that cigarette. He's been blocked like a few times. Senior of Discord. No man, where's my lighter? Gebrek te big. Daar is die beauty van 'n bik. Hy het altyd so 'n klein bietjie gas oor. Smoking is bad. I agree with you, Wilco Jones. I'm setting a bad example. Well, it doesn't look like there is. Klipkop, merci pour votre bon travail. Thank you for your good work. Jan, I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to do it in a way not to piss off other people, but for me that's a little bit difficult. I've always been the guy that like swims upstream. Ever since I was little, I remember my mom There was this day I just decided I'm going to put my own shoes on. I think I was going to preschool. And I just decided I'm big enough now. I'm going to put my own socks on. I'm going to put my own shoes on. I'm going to tie my own shoes just because I'm that guy. And when she started, I like shouted at her like, no, I'm going to do it myself. And like I struggled for, I think, half an hour until I eventually said, okay, mom, like I can't do this on my own. Like I'm just not skilled enough. I was late for school that day and she was a bit pissed off, but I've always been like that. Kaptein Konyn says, meer sulke gaste asseblief. The thing is, I kind of enjoy like having specifically black people on. So I've had Wotan ZA on, I've had Jimmy Ramagopa on, and now we had Ntuthuko on. The thing is, most of them are, at least friendly to the idea of what AfriForum is doing, and they're not out there like the Ndlozis and the Gardies trying to like kill our culture. Now, eventually, I want to venture into this area where I start chatting with radicals. I don't know if it's worthwhile, but for now, I'm really enjoying the zebra debates, where I can ask questions which I just can't ask white people. But guys, thank you very much for joining in. I'm going to leave it at that, and as always, volhard en hou koers.